In 2017, Coleen Greenwood was prepared to walk down the aisle with the man she thought was her soulmate. The date came several months after James Scott staged a romantic proposal that included a so-called diary that laid out all the wedding plans in detail. He promised a lavish ceremony in England followed by an extravagant Las Vegas honeymoon. Colleen figured he could easily afford it since James bragged about how much money he had in the bank. Not only was he wealthy, but he was a hero who risked his own life by jumping out of a window to save a child from a burning home. Colleen's firefighting fiance had it all, or so she thought. She had been looking forward to moving her new family, including the couple's young son, into a home valued at £1.5 million. She believed they would also launch a new hotel and restaurant with help from Gordon Ramsay. However, as the wedding date approached, Colleen figured out the truth about her fiancé. Virtually everything he told her about himself was part of an intricate scheme. Her fiancé spun such an elaborate web of lies that even when he asked her and her sister for money, they agreed, despite believing he was worth millions. Although Colleen knew her fiancé as James Scott, his real name was Greg Wilson. She didn't find this out until the day they were supposed to get married, and that lie was just the tip of the iceberg. Colleen was browsing a dating site in September 2014 and was immediately drawn to the profile of someone calling himself Firefighter J. They started a conversation, and the mystery man identified himself as James Scott, a fireman who was filthy rich. He was 7 years younger than Colleen, who believed she had met the man of her dreams. James, as he called himself, proceeded to weave a complex narrative that caused everyone in Colleen's circle of friends and family to agree. Despite the 2 divorces she had under her belt, the blushing bride-to-be clearly thought this time would be different. Of course, the relationship wasn't perfect. Greg frequently told his fiancée that his job required him to be away from home 4 days a week. While he wanted Colleen to believe he was spending that time at the fire station, the reality couldn't be further from the truth. In reality, Greg wasn't a firefighter at all. When he left Colleen alone for days at a time, he was actually spending time with his wife at their home about 30 miles away. Greg and his wife had been married for 13 years at that point. He also fabricated other aspects of his life to impress Colleen, most notably by claiming that he had tons of money in the bank. Greg insisted that his family was wealthy and his mom worked as a successful sports agent in France. To keep up the ruse, he forged a range of documents that showed he had £2 million tucked away. Pretending to be rich made it easier for him to convince Colleen, her sister, and other victims to hand over their money when he needed it. As for his supposed bravery when battling blazes throughout England, Greg had plenty of stories to impress Colleen. He regaled her with tales of heroism, including the time he supposedly leaped from the window of a burning building with a child gripped in his arms. Even if some aspects of his life seemed too good to be true, the bride-to-be could look past those details and focus on the fact that she was engaged to a wealthy firefighter willing to put his own life in danger to help others. However, there was nothing Greg wouldn't lie about. After emerging as a single woman following a pair of failed marriages, Colleen made it clear that she didn't want any more kids. It was already tough enough for her and her children to navigate life after those previous relationships ended in divorce. When she discussed the topic with Greg, she was thrilled to hear that he was on board. In 2015, Colleen got pregnant, but the couple agreed it would be best to get an abortion. Greg decided to take matters into his own hands to prevent any further pregnancy scares. The next month, he said he had a vasectomy to prevent him from fathering any more children. He even returned from the hospital with bandages supporting his claim. For Colleen, the last piece of the puzzle appeared to fit into place. She was looking forward to enjoying the rest of her life with the man she still knew as James Scott, and took comfort in knowing that there wouldn't be an unexpected pregnancy to disrupt their plans for marital bliss. But when Colleen learned she was pregnant again, all those plans fell apart. In September 2016, Greg heard the news and didn't seem all that surprised. He referred to the child as their miracle miracle baby, conceived despite his previous vasectomy. If he actually had the surgery, any resulting pregnancy would be a miracle. Medical professionals say vasectomies are the most effective form of birth control outside of complete abstinence. With a permanent success rate of over 99%, it was unheard of for Greg and Colleen to conceive a child after the surgery. But he stuck to his story, and she decided the pregnancy was a sign that they were supposed to have a child together. Unfortunately, there were some severe complications throughout the pregnancy. Giving birth to their premature son, Charlie, almost cost Colleen her life. While Colleen was still pregnant with Charlie, Greg popped the question. On the surface, it looked like a romantic gesture to ensure the couple would be together as they raised their, quote, miracle babe. In reality, this was another opportunity for Greg to get closer to the end goal of a heartbreaking financial scam. Even though he assured his fiance that he had millions in the bank, he presented her and her sister with an investment opportunity that they believed would result in a huge payoff down the road. He promised his wife-to-be and her sister that they could quit their jobs and live comfortably off the income created by his foolproof plan. Greg did his homework and established documents detailing the boutique hotel and restaurant he intended to open. With the involvement and input of a world-renowned celebrity chef, Colleen and her sister believed this was the opportunity of a lifetime. They contributed more than £58,000 to help get the project off the ground. To set the stage for his long con, Greg created fraudulent evidence that he had established a property management company to handle all the details. He called it Gemini Property Services and forged recommendations, references, and statements of support from a host of supposed investors, including a few prominent soccer players. He also convinced Colleen's sister to hand over another £10,000, which he used to buy a new Mini Cooper instead of investing it in the business. Adding insult to injury, he used that Mini Cooper as his getaway car, leaving Colleen behind with their son and never looking back. The scam involved other victims too. He convinced individuals and businesses to put money into his scheme on the promise that Gordon Ramsay would be running the hotel's restaurant and plenty of celebrities would be on hand to help honor its grand opening. Greg promised the investors exclusive access to the hotel and its amenities, even though he clearly had no plans of ever making good on them. One particularly bold aspect of the scheme involved a local rugby club. He convinced the Newcastle Falcons to offer him an exclusive membership on the vow that he would provide a large sum of money for sponsorship. Of course, he knew he'd never pay the club a nickel. He simply used his fraudulent connection to the Newcastle Falcons to prove his fake hotel was rooted in reality. As the wedding date drew near, Greg knew that he had a lot of loose ends to tie up. Remember, he still had a wife and kids. Although he told Colleen he was previously married, he assured her they were divorced and his ex-wife took the kids and moved to Texas. To buy himself more time, he kept inventing new lies. Greg sunk so low that he faked a cancer diagnosis that would postpone the wedding date. In addition to his health scare, he claimed he needed to delay the event again so he could travel to America and bring his daughter back to England for the big day. When he returned, however, the kids weren't with him. His delay tactics arguably worked, at least for a while. His fake excuses allowed him to push back the wedding twice. Colleen's sister started to get suspicious. After a little research, she determined that Greg never even booked a reservation at the wedding venue in the first place. That shocking revelation was just the first of many, which left Colleen with the sickening realization that she had been duped by the man she thought would be with her through thick and thin. Greg finally recognized that his time was up, but he had one cruel trick left up his sleeve. While in the driver's seat of the Mini Cooper, he handed over Charlie to Colleen and drove off. He might have hoped to completely disappear and leave his financial crimes behind, but his dirty deeds soon caught up with him. In 2020, Greg appeared in court for sentencing after he pleaded guilty to financial crimes and entering a false name on Charlie's birth certificate. As Colleen looked on via a live video feed, the judge in the case criticized Greg for his evil scam. The judge described him as arrogant and cruel for stealing money from the woman he claimed to love. He also criticized Greg for lying about the vasectomy, his own health, and the status of his marriage. Finally, the judge insisted that Greg was too cowardly to face what he had done, instead choosing to abandon Colleen and their son on what should have been his wedding day. While Greg was sentenced to spend 6 years behind bars, Colleen was left with a lifetime of regret and anxiety. She spoke to media outlets and submitted a statement to the court that reflected her heartache and sadness after being victimized by the man she fell in love with. Even after learning all the despicable pieces of his secret life, Colleen said she still referred to him as James, the name he provided when they first started dating. She felt stupid for falling for his lies and guilty for causing her sister financial hardship. Worse still, she said the ordeal has caused her daughters from previous relationships to lose their ability to trust other people. As for Charlie, she already dreads the tough conversation she'll eventually have with him about his father. Despite the circumstances around Charlie's birth, Colleen loves her son and regrets that she will one day have to tell him that his father was a brazen liar and a con artist. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comments section what you think is the biggest red flag when it comes to dating.